Good evening and welcome to TDM Talk Show. Our guest tonight is Joe Liu, Director of Macau Pass and MOME. As Macau continues its push for diversification and increasing links to the Greater Bay Area, Macau Pass and e-payment service MPay continue local and regional expansion, spearheaded by Mr. Liu. Tonight we're hoping to learn more about how all-encompassing e-payment systems have become regionally, where they're going, and how Macau and its firms can take advantage of what is already on offer. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
I know you're a very busy guy, not only Macau Pass, but MOME as well, and I know that you're doing a lot of other business ventures and ideas and always constantly creating. I'd like to take us back to kind of the initial idea of MPay. MPay has become very, very widely used. It's become synonymous with Macau and specifically cashless payment systems. But it's been around for quite a while in terms of concept. Can you just walk us through that?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, you're right. Actually, MPay was softly launched to the market just under 2 years ago.
Okay.
The concept has always been there, to create the cashless living for Macau. Being Macau Pass, obviously we started off with the physical card. Mm-hmm. But with the day and age, with the smart city concept coming across to the city nicely, we feel currently is the right timing to push this new product. Mm-hmm. It's not really a new concept or new product, in Chinese terms anymore, as we can see. But for Macau and for the majority of the Macau citizens, I still think it is a relatively new and innovative way to proceed with daily life. So, softly launched around 2 years ago, but 1 year ago, we finally officially pushed the product out. So a lot of development has taken place since. We've done a lot of changes to the apps. To be very honest with you, the first version, when we saw it, I personally wasn't a big fan of it, and I'm sure a lot of audience would agree. It wasn't particularly, user friendly. Okay. It was still single language based in Chinese before. But if you look at the same apps today, we now have dual language. English version has been officially launched. Mm-hmm. We have partnered with a number of different banks, including banks such as BNU, which is widely used, and Luso, widely used by the non-Chinese speaking populations in Macau. So we really are hoping to be able to help anyone living in Macau, no matter if you're Chinese speaking or English speaking.
So this stretches much further beyond, let's say, just a bus card.
Correct. Firstly, it's no longer a card, and secondly, the usage covers literally your daily life in Macau. So from transportations to retail, to F&B, to paying the government fines, for example, utility bills, for example, to even buying a turbojet ticket, to Hong Kong.
And we've seen that happen over, let's say, a couple years in Macau. You've seen a lot more cashless payment coming in. We've seen the likes of Alibaba and Tencent with their own versions, and Macau seems like it needed its own version to be able to offer this to people. Are you working particularly with those large companies, with Alibaba and with Tencent?
Correct. I mean, it's funny you mentioned about Alibaba, because we were actually the first company that has brought in, Alipay by Alibaba into Macau. So we've done that a few years ago, and we exclusively partnered with them for 3 years. At that time, we were the first company to bring the cashless payment tool to Macau to really facilitate the tourists coming into Macau for the spending. And it wasn't an easy 3 years, from zero, to build every single merchant, to convince them to use something new, to educate them, and to do a lot of different promotions. So today, as you can see everywhere, you can already use Alipay, and we've quickly opened up our platform to also WeChat Pay and to all other forms of electronic payments, all within our network.
All right. So where is this going? We have a lot of things happening simultaneously. We have a lot of national initiatives also. Macau is very much pushing for the Smart City Initiative. What is the next step? Where are you guys? I know that you're working on a lot of things behind the scenes. You don't have to tell me all of it. But what's the next step?
Sure. So we will develop our company in 2 different levels. Firstly, we will continue to strengthen our provision and our network for all the tourists coming into Macau. So that is obviously through our partnerships with Alipay, with WeChat Pay, and other Chinese enterprises to constantly try to bring the best of offerings from Chinese fintech into Macau. So our job is to localize that and to roll out in Macau. So that is all more on the tourism level to help Macau grow into that direction. The second level is to help the Macau citizens. Anyone living in Macau, no matter who you are, we want to also have the counterpart for Macau. So whatever the Chinese users are really used to back home in mainland China, we want to do the similar counterpart for Macau in the ways of MPay, in the ways of different functions of your daily life. We hope to roll that out in Macau.
Okay, great. I'm looking forward to it. Are there any partnerships that you work more, let's say you would work primarily with Alibaba versus with Tencent? And has that been a historical reason, or?
I mean, historically, we started with Alipay, with Alibaba. But however, today, with Macau's speed of development, we can no longer only work with a single party.
Yeah.
So we do work with all of them, I would say in equal terms. So the point is not to bring favoritism into Macau, but the point is to bring a hugely open market. And our job is really to bring in the best of what China has to offer, and it's then up to the merchants and up to the users to choose what suits them the most.
Now, you do not operate as a bank, correct? You operate under a separate type of license, which is for financial instruments.
Correct. I mean, similar to banks, we are also regulated by AMCM in Macau.
Monetary Authority of Macau.
Correct, correct. But however, you're right, we do not operate exactly the same as the bank. Our license is a little bit different to traditional banks. So currently, we are the only non-bank financial institution in Macau under AMCM to be able to operate such business. So yeah.
Is there space for another competitor? Is it healthy for Macau to have another competitor with a similar type of license at this stage of development?
At this stage of development, I would say because the banks can also perform similar functions, so we welcome a healthy type of competition, I would say, because that would actually in terms help us or help each other to grow the market, to push out new ways of lifestyle to Macau. So we welcome actually new competitions as long as we all find our own positioning towards the end and we compete on a level playing field. I think it's good for the market.
Now, we've seen people creating their own positioning in terms of 2014, we had WeBank set up in China, which was the first e-banking, online banking license. Hong Kong, just within this last year, rolled out about 8 licenses, I think, that they did in stages. Now hitting some traction, but we'll see how that develops. Is there any advantage of actually getting an online banking license? And is there any, from what you've heard from the Monetary Authority who does regulate all of this, are they going in that direction?
So currently, there isn't such provision for a virtual bank as yet for Macau, even though Hong Kong has already rolled out. However, it doesn't mean the government is stopping at where it was before. We also, together with banks, work closely with AMCM, and we are in constant talks to develop new ways or new financial products that is heading towards the same direction as a virtual banking license. However, further news are yet to be announced in how that will be played out.
And currently we are in a very well-regulated banking environment. We saw the result of the evaluation by the Asia Pacific Group as towards whether we were complying with the Know Your Customer and the anti-money laundering measures. We were the first country to pass all of their measures, which is quite impressive for some place that handles so much money. And let's hope that that continues to go on. So you don't only do Macau Pass and MPay, you also have the marketing arm, media and marketing agency, which is MOME. And you're doing a lot. You can see them on the buses, the TVs, the bus ads, the interior, and video and fixed content. How was that? Why was there the decision to merge?
So yeah,
did it make your life easier?
I would say it makes our partner's life easier.
Okay.
My life, not necessarily so, because you have to think about how to integrate both, right? So yes, I started off with MOME. That was my original or primary business before I get involved with Macau Pass. But as I progressed with MOME's development, we have created the largest mobile media network within Macau and within both offline and also on digital fronts, riding with partnerships again with mainland Chinese digital enterprises. So we can reach similar target as I was talking about when I was describing Macau Pass. We were trying to help the tourists coming into Macau to get the right information, as well as helping local enterprises to reach them, and also giving information to the locals. So as I was doing that, it makes sense to bring payment as a function to tie in the loop. So then now, together with two companies, we can then have a complete ecosystem and how we can creatively roll out campaigns, how we can really effectively give good information and content to educate the market. At the same time, we can help the merchant to increase the business, to bring in new customers, to bring in, to tie in the payment, the transactions, to close down the whole commercial ecosystem. So I feel by tying in two companies' synergies together, it will really help what we do here.
In terms of MOME itself, is it also providing content that is then broadcast, let's say, in mainland China? It's not only Macau-centric?
In mainland China, it will be broadcasting in various different digital platforms instead of offline locations. In some offline locations that we're expanding to, for example, we now have our screens on the buses going through the bridge to Hong Kong and Shanghai, for example. So those sort of territory we will still hope to expand to, but for the greater China area, we will definitely ride on digital platforms for now.
Okay. So speaking of the three words that have been on everybody's tongues for the past however long, the Greater Bay Area, there's been a lot that has been talked about Macau's role within that, and there is also advantages for Macau companies who are looking out. And specifically within that, if they're looking to be attracting some of these 40 million tourists who are coming to Macau from a bunch of these cities, which is very much concentrated from Guangdong, they need to advertise to them before they get here. But do they also need to provide them a payment solution before they get there?
Of course we have to. I mean, that is what the two companies have been focusing on doing, but previously separately. So with now, we can roll it out in one solution, and all these 9 cities within the Greater Bay Area will benefit, from the information we can provide, and we can make sure when they do travel to Macau, they are, in really safe hands in terms of they will be able to benefit from the same convenience that they used to when they're back home, but in Macau.
Which is literally a beep, a verification.
Correct. It's the same mobile phone, same apps that they've been using, same form of functions, but welcome by anywhere they go within Macau. But the important thing for us is that now we're talking about the influx of tourists coming into Macau, but it's also equally important for us as a Macau counterpart to provide similar service and convenience to Macau citizens when, not only in Macau, but when they eventually do travel out, no matter to the Greater Bay Area or to Hong Kong. We are working very hard to also give them an option, maybe through MPay, maybe through our platform, or maybe through our partners, to get out of Macau using the similar form of payment channels or the information they've been used to accessing in Macau. So this is one.
But despite being one country, we all have various different currencies. So working with 3 different currencies must be challenging. I understand that you've made progress with the 2 currencies. Are we expecting to see a 3-currency platform available sometime soon? What are the major roadblocks within that process?
I wouldn't say there's too much roadblocks in terms of regulation means. If anything, the government is very supportive in all these initiatives. So the question is, as you mentioned, all the anti-money laundering issues. So Beijing government is very, very cautious of Macau, given the amount of money being used or being transacted in Macau, with the gaming industry in place. So we are working, enterprises and the government sectors are both working really hard to devise a means of different measures that will regulate, the income and the outcome, outgoing, outbound of payment in effective ways. And once we can overcome this hurdle, you will soon see the three currencies, being flowed through the border in a much more convenient way. And we're not too far from it, I would say. We're making great progress this year. So a TriCurrency model is something that we will be hopefully to be able to announce in the future, in the near future.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a guest on the other day, and we were talking about whether money or, let's say, financing leads to regulation or vice versa, whether regulation can lead to proper investment. What is your standpoint on that in regards to this in terms of mobile payments, cashless payments, and their development?
I would say different traditional financial products and new ways of obtaining these products will merge eventually. As you can see, in many fintech companies in China, they are already giving out financial products, from deposit saving accounts to financial investment products. And so on. And even insurance companies, are they providing online insurances and all these eKYC work or ways of giving credit ratings through a few clicks. By collecting big data, they can give much more accurate assumptions of who you are, your spending pattern, and your ability to pay back. Even arguably say so more than traditional auditing methods.
Yeah.
So with these technologies rolling out, I would hope Macau in the future can really act as one of the hubs within the Greater Bay Area to provide new ways of financing means. Macau is in a location, very good location, where we are a good window to overseas, especially with our trade agreement with the Portuguese-speaking nations, especially with how we are enjoying low tax, really low tax initiatives in Macau. Chinese enterprises in the future maybe will be more interested in moving to Macau or even opening a sub-branch in Macau to enjoy these benefits, providing financially we can aid, we can really help them. With the new products and with the right regulations, we can do that.
We've seen banks doing that already. We've seen Macau is one of the places with the most banks in the world. It's pretty crazy. Now, you yourself are a young entrepreneur, a successful young entrepreneur, and there are a lot of people who are pursuing the same path in Macau. With varying degrees of success. Macau has undergone such rapid change and rapid development that we have a lot of small and medium enterprises which spring up. Some succeed, some don't. In terms of your conversations with these young entrepreneurs, what is the feedback that you're getting from them? Do they feel like they're in a positive entrepreneurial space? Is there actually room for growth? Are they feeling able to develop their business within Macau, or do you think that they're looking more as Macau as a platform and then they'll develop their business within the Greater Bay Area?
I would say most of them would hope to use Macau as a springboard, as a platform for the Greater Bay Area, because the Macau market is limited in size. But initially, I would say when I have discussions with them, initially they are all very, very, very positive. Simply because, again, thanks to the Macau government, they have been giving out a lot of initiatives, funding support and so on to encourage, new SMEs to be formed, young businesses to be formed. And so as you can see in recent years, there has been a lot more new businesses, formed by young entrepreneurs. So first stage is always positive because they are, well-funded, as in any new businesses in the beginning, it's always fresh and always fun. So we are still in the honeymoon period right now. But as a lot of them progress, you will starting to see a little bit more challenges. As we know, not every new business will eventually survive. It's a lot of trial and error in the process. And with the Greater Bay Area initiative, I would personally see it as both as an opportunity and threat. For Macau, to be very honest. Macau is a small place.
Yes.
Your survival in Macau does not necessarily mean you will survive in a much greater, location. Once Macau is more open to the Greater Bay, it also means we can go out easier, but it also means the greater enterprise can come in easier. As we can already see, the great banks from China, the number one bank in the world right now is ICBC in size, and they're already flexing their muscles in Macau, competing fiercely with BOC in Macau, which was traditionally the biggest bank in Macau, right? So they are both competing very fiercely, and now we have the Alibaba coming into Macau directly themselves. So enterprises locally in Macau, arguably, the space for growth is being limited simply because the resources. There's no way they can compete in the level playing field. So the question is whether the government can create the right policies and the right encouragement for different enterprises to eventually work together. Yeah. It's all about positioning. Macau enterprises may be smaller, may lack resources compared to those great companies. However, we do have the culture from here. We know what the market wants from here. We know the people from here. We know what we need, the people here need. So if we have our own position and we can, in terms, work together, riding on greater resources from China, I will see that as more of an opportunity. But at the moment, that is still unclear. So at the moment, I would see it as a threat. So
well, especially with the restrictions on importation of labor and what the quotas are for being able to have talent come in from outside. Specifically looking at even in neighboring Zhuhai, Shenzhen, all of these other Greater Bay Area cities are offering talent attraction packages which are insane. I mean, we have 30 million, 200 million yuan, 400 million yuan, different types of packages, and that's going to draw in people to be creating products right next door that will compete with our young entrepreneurs also. But it does fall a lot on the government. Regulation is going to be very, very important as to figuring out how to simultaneously protect local businesses so that they can still stay in business and not be wiped out by competition from outside. But also to open up enough to make sure that they feel the need to be competitive. They will not be, let's say, lazy in their approach towards being an entrepreneur in Macau. But we're going to have a major shift. We've had 10 years of very, very impressive, quick growth. And now we're going to be going into a new era with a new chief executive and potentially a number of other top roles. What is your guys' contact with, what is the frequency of your guys' contact with the government, both the outgoing government and the incoming government? And how can you express to them some of the concerns that you might have? And are they listening?
So we are in, I would say, almost daily contact with various different departments, ranging from economic department to transport department to, as I say, AMCM and so on. I would say, through these few years of development, I see a big change in attitude from all different levels, of different government departments in the view towards how Macau can be shaped up and how local enterprises should be performed. And I was hugely impressed, to be very honest. However, we all know that, very often the policy making level is still slightly lagging behind simply because historically how Macau governance or the Macau policies was shaped. But it does not necessarily mean they are closing doors on us. So the frequency of our contact means they do care and they do listen. So both from the existing government to the new incoming government, now we're in a time of transition and we can see all different level departments. They are starting to be, some sort of personnel change and so on. But the handover work so far we've seen is being done pretty well, pretty seamless, I would say. With one personnel moving out, the new one coming in, we will have immediately a new meeting to recap what was discussed before and how we should pick up. So I would say that the new government is very open. How the policies will be shaped is still remaining to be seen, but I would give them with full confidence, and I hope we will have each other's support too.
Now, we've seen all of this growth, and we saw that at the beginning of the year when the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, decided to give its prediction for Macau's growth, it was positive growth, and I believe it was over 4%. But then their October prediction shifted it to a recession, to negative 1.3% in terms of GDP. Do you think that that is putting additional pressure on these incoming officials to make sure that they do it right?
I would say yes, a bit of pressure, but at the same time, I would say the government would see that pressure as an opportunity for Macau, given on political complications in Hong Kong. Macau now suddenly is open to a lot of new opportunities that previously maybe Macau never would have the chance to do so. So if anything, I would say the Macau government now can really reposition Macau. In terms of my industry, in the fintech industry, traditionally we would all know that Hong Kong is the financial hub. However, in new ways of providing new financial products and convenience and smart cities to the people within the Greater Bay Area, I think Macau can actually reposition itself in many ways. So I really do look forward to how this will shape Macau up.
Speaking of smart city and transportation in particular, we have noticed that there has been such rapid development that they've even talked about, let's say, implementing a tourist tax or trying to cap the tourist numbers overall, or trying to switch the demographic of the type of tourists that they're attracting to Macau. Would that at all change your marketing tactic or the style of business that you conduct both with MOME and with Macau Pass and MPay?
I would say the tactic must follow the trend. So at the moment, Macau is still predominantly Chinese-based in terms of the visitors' composition. I can see there's huge initiatives to diversify what Macau has to offer, and that will in turn diversify the income of tourists mix. We will work constantly to match that scheme, obviously, and we are very confident we can do that.
Looking over at Hong Kong and the kind of widespread use of the Octopus card, did their development model provide some sort of framework that you've seen, okay, this works, this doesn't work? Did you initially think of partnering with them? What is your contact with the Octopus group?
We are already partners with them, and in many places, especially in the hotels in Macau, you will see there are places where you can actually use Octopus to pay within Macau. So all that were actually done by our team.
Okay.
So we have actually partnered with them already a couple of years ago. Obviously, throughout the years of development, we take their success in Hong Kong as a good reference to learn from. But however, our business model and their model is in fact completely different. Octopus, as we all know, is quasi-governmental. That means in all the major infrastructures in Hong Kong, Octopus as a payment channel, we're already embedded in the initial development stages, where all the tenants going into these places must use Octopus as a form of payment. However, Macau Pass has always been an independent private enterprise. We work closely with the government, but we do not have direct ownership by the government. So every merchant now you see in Macau using Macau Pass or Alipay or WeChat Pay or MPay, every single form of payment, every location you see, we have to knock on the door ourselves to explain, to educate, and to convince every single owner of the business to try to adapt to us. So that is why many audience may ask why Macau Pass over the years, the development speed tends to lack Octopus in Hong Kong.
Okay.
I have to explain myself at that point. Obviously, there's a lot of improvement need to be done in the company, and we're trying to do that rapidly right now. But at the same time, in traditional terms, the two businesses are very different.
Yes.
And so we hope that through our growth now, what we are today, we already provide a greater variety of service functions and so on. So let's hope that can continue. We'll continue to work closer with.
Is there an advantage for Macau Pass to also be usable in Hong Kong?
Actually, hopefully by Q4 or early next year, we
Okay.
might see some announcement on that part.
Okay,
So
okay.
we are working very, very hard on that, and we are in contact with both, or with the support from both governments in Hong Kong and Macau to have this passed. And we are on our final stages of testing.
Okay.
So.
Just logistically speaking, would that require someone to have two separate accounts with patakas and with Hong Kong dollars, or would there be a natural conversion that would be possible?
There will be a conversion
Okay.
by a standard rate.
Okay.
Yeah, so
That would make things a lot easier.
I think so.
Okay.
Otherwise, yeah.
Okay. Well, I see you going around quite a bit, and I see that you're on Facebook and on Instagram, and you have quite a few very beautiful backdrops behind you.
Thank you.
But it's not all fun and games, right? You're also very hardworking when you're going to these places, and you're exploring these not only for your own personal gain. Can you elaborate at all on that?
Sure. So people don't necessarily know me too well. Will think, I'm on constant holiday and I'm always traveling for fun. Obviously, I have to portray myself as someone who is, fun-loving. You work hard, you play hard, you create a positive attitude towards your life and work. And this is how us, as a small enterprise in a small market like Macau, we need to portray a certain character to bring in investment or to bring in interest, from overseas, and to bring in new innovation, new products into Macau. Otherwise, Macau is a small place. Who would want to just come in like that? So yes, behind the fun backdrops, the beautiful places that we go to, I was trying to constantly open mainland Chinese enterprises to new markets. I grew up in the UK myself. I may know Europe reasonably well. I was hoping, to combine my network in Europe with what my own new network in China right now, to see if there's any new opportunities we can bridge, whether Chinese technology can be, exported to Europe, and whether the European nations have, demand for the Chinese services.
It appears, at least on the state level, that is definitely happening with
Correct.
the regional ties, and let's hope that continues to go on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being on the show. I really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Thank you.
I look forward to using my MPay app to pay for my next purchase, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's all we have for this evening. Thank you again for joining us, and tune in next week for more TDM Talk Show. Good night.